Orlando, Florida.
And why were you going to Orlando, Florida last year?
It was a family vacation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think a couple years ago the NFB had their convention there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also filmed the elevators at the Rosen. I went to the national convention too, so I I filmed the elevators at the Rosen Shingle Creek in Orlando, Florida.
Cool. And did you fly to Florida from wherever you are, or did you just drive? Did your parents just drive?
I went to the STEP program at the Louisiana Center for the Blind in 2018, and we took a bus. We took a bus to Orlando.
That's cool. All right. How long was that bus ride?
I think almost 24 hours, I should say, or 16 or 17 hours.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Probably at least 12 hours.
Yeah.
Wow. So what? The bus drove halfway there and let you off to get lunch or have a drink and then get back on. Is that how it works?
Yes, we stopped for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we stopped like in Florida, like part of Florida. It was like I think 1 or 2 in the morning. I was still awake. I'm not good at sleeping on buses, so I stayed awake. But then we kept moving. When we stopped, it was a good time for me to go to the restroom. I won't go to the bathroom when the bus moves and stuff.
Right. Right.
So I just went to the restroom and then got back to my seat as fast as I could before the bus was going to move. So, but what we got on, we got back on I-10 and I somehow fell asleep. But then when I woke up, I was on I-75.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, and then we stopped for breakfast at I don't remember. I think the McDonald's or something.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's or wherever it is.
Right.
So then we got back on the bus and then we just went down to Orlando.
Well, that's cool, man. That's quite an experience. So what can you tell our listeners about the convention and about what you did there?
I met new friends. First I was like nervous and very nervous. What?
Were you as nervous then as you are now on this radio show?
I was very nervous back then. But I attended a NABS meeting, the NABS board meeting.
Right.
I also attended a play for the Louisiana Center for the Blind. I also sat in at general sessions for the NFB. And I also enjoyed the banquet.
Okay. And what did they have at the banquet, and what can you tell me about the play? Actually, the play sounds very, very, very interesting. And by the way, and congratulations, we have about 10 minutes, so we made it almost to the end. So tell us more about the play. Go ahead.
Let me try to remember it, but it was a Louis Braille play. Louis Braille, who invented Braille in the 1800s in Paris. They were doing a play on Louis Braille. And somehow the school didn't like the invention of Braille, and and stuff like that. So they try, but with with Louis' advocacy and his hard work,
Right.
he fought and he kept Braille. So 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 today we have Braille.
Right. So if you could go back in France and back in time and ask Louis Braille. By the way, in French, it's really not called Braille; it's Braille. Braille. So if you could really ask Louis Braille one question, what would you have asked?
I would just say, how did I would just tell him you're a very smart person, and I would like to congratulate you for inventing this for us.
Right. Right. Well, that would be a great thing to say. But I mean, is there anything that you would have asked, or any question that would still be burning that you would love to know the answer to?
How did you know? Like I'll just ask him. How did you know when to develop Braille? Like how did you know when it was time to?
There you go. That's a really interesting question. How did you figure out the good timing of when it should have been developed? Right. I think I mean I forget all of the story. I think that his father was a cobbler,
Mm-hmm.
and that job doesn't exist anymore, really. Well, it kind of does actually actually in France and in certain countries and certain towns, you can still cobble. You can still be a cobbler. If you're really good at it, you could make really beautiful shoes and make really good money. So, do you remember how Louis loses his vision?
I think he put the sharp thing in his when he accidentally went into his eye. The sharp thing.
Yeah. Supposedly, the story goes, and who knows what the truth of it is? We'll never know. But supposedly, he was playing on the table on the cobbler's bench, and supposedly he grabbed a sharp knife or something and poked his eye out or severely damaged his eye, which back then, well, would be horrible any day, horrible today. But back then, they really didn't have medicine back then in France. I mean, they kind of knew what to do. And the doctors back then, that's the interesting thing about the history of medicine too, when you think about it, that doctors throughout history probably always knew what they wanted to have done, but if they didn't have the technology to have done it, they couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
If a doctor from Braille's France of the 1700s, I think, or maybe 1800s, if they were alive today, they would certainly understand the medicine today and the technology, and they would say something to the effect of, "Wow, that's what I needed. That's a great idea." The same thing that we would say in 50 years when we have driverless cars and you have one or something. You say, "Wow, I needed this 50 years ago." It's the same. Same type of philosophy. They would have been able, if given the tools, doctors then would have been able to fix it, but who knows? The fact is that he blew out his eye with a sharp scalpel, probably has a cobblering terminology. I don't know what it was for. Who knows? And luckily he created Braille, and then from then on it was used. I don't know. Because there's a lot of debate today about really the importance of Braille and really if it should still be used in society. So what do you think, for that?
I think it should be still used. I think it still should be used today.
And why should it be still used in society today? Congratulations. You're doing a great job. Only under 5 minutes to go. You're doing great, man. Why should Braille still be used?
So people would learn how the Braille works. They would learn.
How about one thing that you just said that I really loved the way you said that? How about so people can learn? So people can learn. Just that. So people can become more knowledgeable, right?
Yes.
And it's interesting because today, France and Spain, France where I've spent a lot of time because I speak French. It's my second language. France actually is quite accommodating to blind people, and I think a lot of it has to do with the influence that blind people have had in France over hundreds of years. And so has Spain. Do you know, this is funny, and it's a bit of dark humor, and well, it's not really dark humor. It's a bit of dark history. Do you know, for instance, in Europe, one of the most kind of robust and the most active countries for blind people in Europe is Spain. Do you know why that is?
They're more. I think they're more blind. There are more blind people in Spain.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that statistic. Who knows? It's a really funny story. In Spain I think it was the 1920s or maybe the 1930s. I'm shaking on my dates here, guys. Sorry for that, you at home. But in the early 20th century, Spain had a dictator basically named Franco, and one of the orders that he said, one of the orders and decrees, was that he said that all of the blind people need to work. That he was fed up with all the blind people sitting around and not working. So a dictator. It's actually ironic, and a dictator helped blind people to work, and now because of that, Spain has a very active blindness community, and the blind people are very active in Spain. So that's partially true. It's partially because of that, and partially because, well, as you said, who knows, man? Maybe there are statistically more blind people in Spain than other. I mean, that's another interesting thing to study. So as we're starting to wrap it up, about 2.5 minutes left, I want to take this time to say, Armando, thanks so much, man. I totally, I really look up to you as a manager, man, because it takes a lot of courage to speak to someone who's older. You know, when I was 19, I never would have wanted to speak to an older adult. I would have been way too nervous for that. I wouldn't have even bothered to show up for this thing if I had known it was me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for coming. I greatly appreciate it. Simply the fact that you stuck to it, you struggled through it, but you didn't give up tonight. And you know what? That's the type of manager that I need for my show. I need a manager that's not going to quit even when they get nervous. You got really nervous and you didn't quit. So that in itself shows me a lot about your character. Now let's not count the chickens. Let's not, or as I like to say, because I love snakes, let's not count our pythons before they hatch. We still need to tie some loose ends, tie some knots, or probably the opposite of that. We probably need to get some knots untied to really get this thing to get this thing going. But I enjoyed that. You covered a lot, and then we start talking about one thing. We talk about radio, talk about historic parks, Luis Braille, and we end with blind people in Spain. Didn't know we'd be covering all that. But that's really why podcasting is so much fun and such a rewarding thing in my life, because I can talk about so many different things that I didn't know and didn't prepare myself to talk about. And as a broadcaster, as a talk show host, that's what happens. And that's really why I love this medicine of having a show. It's really beneficial. And if it helped Armando, it just helped a million other Armandos, or a million other Spanish people. I don't know. I haven't seen my analytics. I don't know how many Spanish people are listening, but all we need is one of them, right? One of them in each country, and we just help millions. All right, under a minute, under 30 seconds. Go. Final word. I'll give you another 2 or 3 sentences, and then we'll close it up. Go.
Okay. Guys, feel free to contact me if you have any questions. My phone number is 855-722-3122, or you can email us, and my
very good.
team.
We'll put all of that. We'll put all of that at the bottom. This was Aaron's opinion. KCGN. Thank you so much.